in this order, Sandip, Sharma, please, welcome from Red Hat. They will already introduce themselves, so don't expect a lengthy introduction. Then we have Professor Dr. Behrang Parhizkar. Oh, wow. Lots of fans here. Good to hear that, yes. And we have Khalil Nooh. Khalil was just registering, so we're waiting any second. So sorry about that. It's the morning and, I think he's there, so he will join us in a second. Please get a microphone and here. So Khalil Nooh. Gentlemen, please take a seat. We have some water. We will have a timer as well soon, kicking in. We have 40 minutes. Amazing setup, by the way. Congrats to the organizers. And looks just this has to be in 2025, I think. Especially I love this type of scene. So today's panel is about the open source for AI startups. I think it's a very, very interesting topic. Everyone's using AI now, more or less. And I would like to start with some small statistics, and I promise I give the word to our speakers. They are all very well versed in their own industry, and especially now we are talking about AI. They have the companies. We have, of course, some of them. They are even teaching professors at university. So I have some numbers here, not very meaningful, but just they are meaningful in this in the sense that they're showing the global size of the AI industry. So we have AI investments hit like 250 to 280 billion USD in 2024. Well, that's statistics which collected again to AI, so take it with a pinch of salt, obviously. But the main idea is that the growth is around 20%, and we're expecting another the same pace of growth, 20% in 2025 as well. And so reaching around 390, 400 billion USD. So it's a huge industry. And by now, around 80% of the companies, they've used some kind of AI. Now, these are the companies. Today we focus on the startups, though. Startups are not that fortunate as much as they have. Obviously, they're way more versatile and then easier to adopt new technologies. They have their limitations, so you will talk about that as well. And lots of them, they are struggling with how and what to use and how to harness AI efficiently. So you will have a few words about that. Malaysia, obviously, to talk about Malaysia, and thank you for the Ministry of Organizing and the My Digital for organizing this event. It helps a lot. And Malaysia is being positioned itself as a key hub for AI innovation in ASEAN. So we see the government is putting lots of effort in this. And Ministry and My Digital are instrumental for that, setting up the AI office. National AI Office. And I have another statistics. Malaysia secured like 3.3 billion ringgit and approved investments for the AI sector only in 2025. And we have a huge amount of investments locked in during the last year. The largest companies, they were coming to Malaysia, investing in data centers, those that are needed for the running the proper AI backgrounds. And we are talking about 160 plus billion ringgit investment. Personally, I should have started the introduction. My name is Erno, and I'm IT Director of Women in Tech. It's a global non-profit organization empowering women across the globe to thrive in technology, and obviously now in AI as well. We have 60 plus chapters across the globe. Malaysia is the APAC head of or HQ of the APAC. So we are the largest community within the whole Women in Tech. I'm also running a fintech startup, so I'm pretty much interested in the following topic, and very excited to hear. So the session again focuses today on open source AI. Should be a game changer for startups since the accessibility. We see what are the pros and cons and what are the problems we are facing. And so let's dig into the how with our panelists, and we will take turns. Obviously, we will discuss about the topics individually. So I will ask them to go one by one, do a first introduction, and then I'll start with Sandip. Sandip, please introduce yourself, and then I have a question. The first question is regarding, of course, to Red Hat. How is Red Hat driving startup success in the region to the effective use of open source AI technologies? Just give us a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Erno. Salamat pagi. Good morning, everyone. Um, so I have been in the industry for now almost 28 years. Consider myself as veteran here. Been doing AI since 2015. I have a certificate degree from MIT in data science. It was really hard to sell AI when I first started. Right? It was not very popular. People used to think this is some kind of magic, uh, but things have changed. Things changed in November 2022 when ChatGPT was launched. And if you guys don't know, ChatGPT, when it got launched, it also made all the previous AI technology obsolete. Because everything you do in AI, had a new lens. You were looking at new ways to do AI as compared to how you did what we call as predictive AI. It's still evolving, but one of the biggest threat with that, ChatGPT was that it was proprietary technology, which means it killed open source, literally. And if you have been following, then since November, since ChatGPT was launched in 2022 till March, there was no open source. It was all proprietary technology for the first 5 6 months. That was bad news for most of us because we are mostly, you know, pro, you know, we kind of promote open source because it kind of creates that area of open innovation where new companies can come in, contribute, and build the ecosystem. For Red Hat, it was also a problem because Red Hat only participates in open source technology. So with the invent of Falcon, if you guys remember, from it was one of the first popular open source, LLM models which got released in UAE. That followed with Llama, Mistral, DeepSeek, and now more recently, I don't know if you have read the news, about a week ago, even GPT launched an open source, GPT open source. So the world is evolving really, really fast around these technologies. They have been like reasoning models, and I will be talking about some of the AI trends later. But um, what I want to say is that open source is really catching up. In fact, not only catching up, they have been surpassing the performance of some of the closed source hosted models, which are more proprietary in nature. So I am mostly here promoting open source, and I believe innovation comes from being open, and gives you the flexibility as well. So we'll see that, especially companies like Red Hat, and if you're not aware of Red Hat, company founded in 93, primarily because of open source. We brought Linux into this world, so we know what open source really means, right? It kind of, we got a lot of lawsuits from the Unix guys, from the Solaris, AIX, but all of them are gone today, right? It's only Linux today, and we still promote open source when it comes to Linux. The Fedora is our open source way to Linux. And then what we do is we harden some of those open source libraries, because if you talk about open source, they are like wild animals. They are like wild animals in the forest. If you want to bring them home, you need to vaccinate them. Right? So if you want to bring a stray dog home, you would first of all bring it to a vet, get it vaccinated, make sure they are all clear of all the diseases, and then you bring them home. Exactly the same thing what Red Hat does, right? we contribute to the open source, we promote open source, but for our customers, for our and there's no licensing, by the way. So what it does, it just vaccinates them, supports them, so that they can be used efficiently within the organization. So that's exactly how Red Hat is contributing. And what that does, and what does it mean for SMEs, is especially because it's open source, you shouldn't be charging an arm and a leg. And there are companies who are doing that. They package open source and then they create products around it. And then they start charging millions for those products. That's not the way Red Hat goes to market. What Red Hat does, it does the packaging, but it makes sure that it only provides support. There's no licensing, it's just subscription for support. And all it does as a part of that support is providing the patches, the bug fixes, the vulnerability testing, and the hardening of those open source libraries, which makes it easier for you to take to production. And the best part is, for SMEs, if you do not want to subscribe, you can continue to use that open source package. So that's how Red Hat is contributing to the AI, especially to the open source AI, I would say.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we come back to you, obviously. Dr. Behrang, Hani. It's, please introduce yourself, obviously, as the others, and then give us a few words how Chamrun Digital tailor AI solution for startups in ASEAN or anywhere else. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erno. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here. Chamrun this September will be 10 years. Malaysian company that was working on digital. So we are one of the sample local company that grow because of the open source. And those time was WordPress was one of the massive open source that we were using to develop solution. We have three pillars in Chamrun. We have a digital solution, which is digital marketing and digital transformation, helping the company from private SMEs to the public sectors. And we have an academy that we provide the digital solution, digital training. Together with our academy, we also have an AI solution. So we promote open source as well. What Sandip was telling actually is great platform. Later we talk about it, that what are the solutions we have that a lot of startup company or solopreneur can use it with the minimum cost to develop something, especially on the MVP model, or to grow the company. Either they are IT based, so we have two type, like a startup can be either IT based or non-IT based. But then with the growth of open source, we know now GPT open source is there. Light version is amazing. You can create any sort of the AI agent and build it and sell it. So we focus as a one company, one solution provider from training, consultancy, and developing AI. So for the development of AI now, we focus very much on the building the AI agent automation with the current tools. Majority are open source as well. I will introduce some of them during the discussion. And then now is automation is very much in picture. And also through the training, we empower a lot of startup company that how they can open a company and grow it with the available tools, which is free or freemium. So it's no more that the company need huge investment at the beginning. Well, we started without any investment. Chamrun was started without even a single ringgit investment, and I think the model is good, so a lot of startup will do it. So very soon, within a year or two, we will have a lot of $1 million company that is two or three people. Two or three people, they open a company and they make it $1 million. So the unicorn is no more, is 100, 200 people with the current way of open source. And now we have no code open source. No code open source is something that is amazing. So we will talk about it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Behrang, Hani. Khalil, so welcome. And after your introduction, please say us a few words on how, from your experience at Mesolitica, what do you think, which open source AI tools have proven most impactful for startups in ASEAN? I think this is very important. Everybody is wondering what to use and how to use it.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone. Khalil, co-founder of Mesolitica. We are a local AI company established in January 2019 where we focus on Bahasa Melayu, natural language processing, NLP back then. So when ChatGPT came at the end of 2022, naturally we evolved that, okay, when can we train our own LLM? So just like Sandip mentioned, when ChatGPT came out, there was only the API. So GPT-4 API was the one that we use. Obviously, before ChatGPT came out, we were actually already trained on GPT-2 already, and 3 as well. But the moment came for us to really push this LLM space when Llama 2 came out, because it was the first open source commercially viable for anybody to train. So that's our kickoff to train the very first Malaysia large language model, which we call Malam. So this brings us to December 2023. There's Malam 1.0. We train on 80 GPUs of A100 on Azure. Took us 10 days, but collecting the Malaysian data set took us about 4 months to open web and another 4 months to prepare, and just 10 days over Christmas to train Malam 1.0 in various sizes. So that's where we kickstart. So from the get-go, even from 2019, between me and my CTO, we've championed open source. Everything that we do since day one was already open source. Back then, everything was in GitHub. Now, everything is on Hugging Face. It is not only the model, but we also open source the dataset and the codes that we use, 100%. So when people ask me how much you open source, I can safely say we already open source 95% of what we do, the whole stack. So this is like the dynamic between me and my CTO, who is the open source champion, and how I navigate the business world, right? So in order to do this, uh, we were privileged to become the first mover advantage, where we get a lot of support from NVIDIA Singapore and now NVIDIA HQ. Then at the end of 2024, our press release from Amazon HQ in Las Vegas. AWS mentioned in the press release about Mesolitica, Malam, Malam 2.5 with all the dialects in Malaysia, training on AWS chips, training on Inferentia, and ultimately saying that everything that we do running in Mesolitica runs in Malaysia. In Malaysia, that means AWS Kuala Lumpur, 100% sovereign in that sense, right? So working with AWS is our go-to-market strategy for this year, at least. So we're also looking into other chips, right? So since we started with NVIDIA, now we're on the AWS chips. We're talking to other AI chips within the region. So coming back to your question about what libraries that I would advise. So if you're just coming into generative AI and building chatbots using any open source or any APIs, obviously, I would bet the first thing that you will see will be LangChain and the new versions of LangChain. So that's on the application building side. So if you're training, fine-tuning open source models or quantization, making smaller SLMs, you probably, as a newbie, will be using Unsloth.io. So Unsloth is a very good introductory to fine-tuning. For even my junior staff are already using Unsloth AI. But when it comes to production deployment of any LLMs, open source inference stacks, I would say, would be the VLLM. So V with the double L, VLLM. Started off is UC Berkeley, and now is spotted by a bunch of Malaysians in Hong Kong. So that's the three main open source that I can share today. That can, for application building, for fine-tuning of any LLMs, and for the inference stacks to deploy in production at scale, whether be it in the cloud, VPC, on-prem, or on the edge. So these are the few libraries from the open source side.
Okay, thank you so much. I think others we have a few to say. I'm going back immediately to Sandip. So what about Red Hat? Which open source platforms you suggest for the startups, especially to scale and innovate? Obviously, we are talking about. We're really trying to focus today on startups, actually. So you will see.
So when it comes to AI today, most people don't talk about model training anymore. People are talking about inferencing, right? So you kind of create solutions with existing LLMs. It could be Llama, it could be Mistral, could be DeepSeek, or could be ChatGPT. So when you talk about inferencing, Inferencing at scale is something that you really want to focus on. And that's where one of the primary technologies that my colleague mentioned here also is VLLM. Because you don't train LLM by yourself unless you have a huge amount of resources. Training would require you to have some specialist skills and lots of GPUs, which as an SME you would probably like to avoid in the beginning, unless and until you are funded. So, or you have some kind of, as he said, 100 A100s were required to do the initial training of Malam. So you leave that to the specialist to do those kind of model training. As an SME, you would focus primarily on open source technology that would help you bring these models to solutions, which would be applicable to your customers that you would be basically building. So that's where I would say VLLM is one of the key technologies, which would allow you to host any LLM so that you can control your cost, you can control your hardware for inferencing, and you can build solutions or agents on top of that. So that's another area which is really upcoming, which is agents. So when it comes to agents, yes, LangChain was one of the most popular ones in the earlier days, but now you have a lot of different frameworks. You have low code and you have, developer centric frameworks. So if you look at developer centric framework where you need to use Python to do the coding, then you have tools like LangChain. There's another popular one from Meta that you guys should look at is Llama Stack, right? It's not model. It is basically an orchestrator which you can use, for agents. Of course, what is happening is MCP, which is Model Context Protocol, is making it easier for you to build these models, but you need to orchestrate the MCP or the servers so that you can build the end solution. So Llama Stack is again a very developer friendly stack that you can use as a single entry point or SDK for building your agents. So when it comes to low code, many of the customers are also eyeing low code technologies like Diffie, DIFY if you want to look up. There's also others like Na10 that even Red Hat is looking at. There is also other tools like Flowwise. So follow the downloads. I would say if you just look up the open source community and you see there are 2 million downloads for GPT OSS which got released 1 week before, that means that tool is popular, right? So one way to look is who is behind those open source companies, who are the major contributors, and what is the kind of download and acceptance in the market. So based on that, you can pick up tools like VLLM, LangChain, Llama Stack, Diffie, Na10, and these would be some of the open source technologies to bet on moving forward, I would say.
Quite interesting. And we come back to you because I have one more question of the charts regarding those. Hani, I think this is a topic very close to my heart, especially as a non-profit where we're trying to empower and train ladies, women, girls, and in the technology. So we are talking about the talent now, and you as a professor at university will give us some insights of that. How do you see the role and the contribution of universities in pursuing AI and making successful the startup scene?
Thank you so much. This is amazing question. But before I answer this question, one of the important, I want to step back a little bit and talk about how university can contribute on the storm and the paradigm shift that happening almost every week. Almost every week we have new tools. One of the important things that I think university now should implement, if anybody from university, is the module. You remember the time that we all, I think still, regardless of what major you study, we have to take communication skill module. Because everybody then could talk about communication skill. Still, university, you do engineering, IT, marketing, or whatever module, you have to take communication skill. I think it's compulsory for university to add prompt engineering or context engineering. Now, prompt engineering already become old topic. So now we talk about the context engineering, because context engineering is the fundamental of using any AI tools. Now, there are thousands of tools that you can learn it today, tomorrow another tools, tomorrow another tools. It's like a empty piece of the paper, and then you have a paint, you can paint. Even you mentioned N8N. N8N, the group that developed it, the developer also amazed with the way that people use it to develop the agent that is very complex. So context engineering is the fundamental of using to be able to communicate with the AI tools now. So university compulsory, if they want to close the gap, which is now is huge, and the gap get a little bit closer, they have to add this compulsory module as context engineering or prompt engineering. So that's this before we reach to your question. That is something I think we must do in the university. Number one. Number two, university should support open source community. And very less modules will be taught now in university for the open source. And you know, open source, now you mentioned Flowise. Flowise extremely going very fast because of the community, because the community started using. And why WordPress was popular or PHP was popular, because the community keep building on that. And now Flowise is, I think, take over N8N very soon, because the way that the community are building. So this community, to prepare students for the market and the demand in the market, we have to build the community of open source students within the university. And university must support them, must prepare them for that. So I think one of the company, I know Red Hat working with university, but Alibaba also provide a lot of sort of the training embedding the module. So one of the things we do in Chamrun, we actually as an industry, we embed our module in certain university, and the students will learn from the expert from the industry about okay, some is open source and some others are the tools that is in the market. So this is I think very important role of university to prepare students for the demand of the market.
Okay, thank you. It's very meaningful, and then we are, as a Women in Tech, pretty much in contact with lots of universities, and we see the struggle, or actually their activities, and some of them they're very active in promoting and giving them. You wanted to say something?
Yeah.
I
just wanted to ask a question to the audience. How many of you are here from university or at the beginning of your career? Can I see a show of hands? Anybody from university? Oh, few. Okay. So how many of you have heard about Andrew Tulloch recently? Have you heard this name? Do you know how much 1.5 billion US dollar is? He refused a job which was being offered to him for 1.5 billion dollars. Right? That's how this world is shaping. So he was offered a job from Meta. Andrew Tulloch, if you just Google him, he works for Thinking Machines. They haven't even come up with a product yet. It's about to come out. I don't know what will come out, right? But we are all waiting for it. He works for Thinking Machine, which is an offshoot of people left OpenAI and they formed this new company. And Meta, which is Mark Zuckerberg, was trying to hire him to break the company, and he offered him 1.5 billion US dollars in salary. And he refused that salary. So that's the power of students. That's the power of innovation. And I really highly motivate you guys, if you're out there at the beginning of your career, to come to AI, because this is probably going to last another 10, 15, 20 years, when it comes to growth.
Yeah,
Thank
you for adding that. Khalil, so turning to you, well, if anybody started, first of all, if anybody is running a non-profit like we are doing, or a startup, the very beginning of its life stage, how little resources you are having. So even more so, talking about AI, we need to know what are the ways the startups can, with the limited resources, use AI, and which AI, and how basically the process would be. How do you see that? Give us some advice.
Yeah, so
It was Khalil, sorry.
Yeah.
We come back to you next.
So Mesolitica started off with a 50,000 ringgit investment in 2019. So that's the only investment we got, angel investment. So since then we were bootstrapping and doing consultancy, custom developments, and the like. But at the moment of the chat GPT, when we wanted to train, wanted access to GPT-4, of course, we obviously applied for free credits from OpenAI, that's one. But we started off with the standard startup programs from the CSPs. So you name it, GCP, AWS, Microsoft. Everything, every of this has a special program for the startups, right? For free credits and such and support. Uh, and apart from the CSPs, obviously NVIDIA as well. So through the NVIDIA Inception, that's how we got our big support from NVIDIA Singapore. So that's one. So that's what allowed, quote unquote, the big tech supported our research and R&D of Malam throughout the years. And with our migration from Azure to AWS, we did the whole business go-to-market strategy with AWS Malaysia, ASEAN, and of course HQ at the end of 2024. So that's a simple answer to the question: how does startups that hasn't fundraise or not able to fundraise, just had an idea, want to jump into the space, is to apply for those. I think once in the Malaysia context, once you have some traction, some visibility, some customers, paying customers, then it's an easier task to apply for government grants, to be honest, right? So this is the two steps. Big tech first, because they are the one giving money to lure you onto their platform, and then from there, how do you remain agnostic as long as possible before you deep dive integrating into respective platforms. So open source, mentioned the NAN in Malaysia. NAN is big, a lot of content, a lot of trainings around NAN for the agentic workflows and AI agents. Then I think for a few local communities in Malaysia, we are already pushing vibe coding, either pair or peer programming. Those are coming up. That means allowing non-coders to build applications, idea to prototype, and then handing it over to your engineers that are 10x to get it into production. So these are the two major shifts for the startup communities or non-coders that has idea that haven't found their technical co-founder yet, but they want to build something based on what they've seen. So this is what I see as of this month. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Hani, do you want to add to this? I mean, you're also running startup.
Yeah, okay, so if I add to what mentioned about the vibe coding, I think that is a great way of going. Now, a startup can start to use things like no code, open source, building the agent, and the market is massive, especially for a startup. Don't look at that the top companies are taking over everything, massive investment, but there is always a niche area that a startup company can touch. You don't need to solve so many problems. Like how I always say to my PhD student, the best PhD thesis is that you can finish it. So the best startup is actually can make money and solve one simple problem. If you solve one simple problem by using an agent, which is very easy to build, and you can start to making money. Making money online in digital space in the history never was as easy as now, especially if you know what tools you use, and without any sort of the investment in one laptop, you can do it. Even though I think in my, probably later I should talk about it. Now, even if you don't have any internet in the rural area, you might think that the people in rural area, they cannot make money. But it's wrong, because now with the open source, you download it in your local host, and it's all about the thinking of the problem, creating the workflow, and workflow is that the solution. And then what we talk about the prompt, you can build it even without any internet. You can run it in completely in your own laptop, a solution. So soon you will see the people who are in the rural area and they know the problem within the community, they can solve it. They don't need a solution from outside. And one important thing, I think we all need to support a Malaysian company who coming up with the open source product. So Malam is actually developed in Malaysia. Well, I know, I don't know you, I never talked to you anyway, but then I'm not promoting everyone, I'm promoting local Malaysian product, because we should support the local development product, especially if it's open source in Malaysia. That is one of the things that we can build the community within Malaysia.
Yeah, perfect. Sandip?
Yeah, I mean, vibe coding is definitely something that, brings everybody to the platform. But for me, the most important thing is the idea. Because without an idea, you cannot do whatever you want to do. So the idea is really, really important. What you should do even before you start into the building a company or building a platform, you should validate and look at the feasibility of that idea, uh, whether it is applicable to your village, to your community, to your city. That is most important. And then you think of ways to bring that idea to ideation, right? To bring that to actual solution. So this is where it's been very, very difficult in the past, but with all these open innovation, things have become a lot easier. And like Hani mentioned, it's a lot easier today than it was in the past, with especially the digital platforms. If you can tap into the free credits, if you can tap into the open source tools, you don't really need more than a laptop to get started with your idea.
Yes, thank you. Indeed, indeed. Thank you for being mindful of the time. We have time for the next question as well. Since we are talking about startups, and I come back to you, Khalil, investors. At the end, at some point, investors are coming to a picture, and then myself, I know how hard it is to get investors to come aboard, especially now that so many companies are mushrooming. What do you see the roles of investors? And if you want, you can also talk a few words about the policymakers as well, since and the Malaysian as well, you see a lot. So how do you see the role of investors and what they have to do? I'm pretty sure they have to be educated as well to some extent.
Sure. So two questions there, one from the investors' perspective and the other one from the policymakers, governments and agencies. So Alhamdulillah, I am personally fortunate because of the first mover advantage of Malam and the PR that we got. I do get a lot of invitation to do awareness, sharing session, roundtables, and to share what exactly Malam is and why did this local small startup is building a large language model where big companies spend billions or 100 millions to train, right? But of course, it comes back to the sovereign question. I mean, if you want to be sovereign, we need to own the full stack. So through open source, this is possible. However, in order to get any AI solution to work in Malaysia, not in the urban but also rural area, language proficiency is important. Not just Bahasa Melayu standard, local Mandarin and Tamil, especially for the dialects, Sabah Sarawak, and of course our colloquial Bahasa Rojak. I mean, our favorite pastime, talking Bahasa Rojak, right? So that's from where I come from, the opportunity to engage directly at all levels of stakeholders in the government. So you have, previously I was active with the Ministry of Science, but once the Ministry of Digital came on board, then I focused all my effort on Kementerian Digital, Ministry of Digital, and all the agencies. MDEC, My Digital, NAYO, MITEC. So these are the policymakers. So from that, the question is how do we make AI safe? That's the big question for the government, right? The governance stack. How does the government not do regulation too early, but still monitor the deployment of any AI, whether it be local or external, whether it be in public sector or private, enterprise or SMEs, with a singular framework for secure, safe, without any risk to harm for the people. So that's one big topic that a lot I discuss at the policy level. From the investor point of view, it's always about, okay, bottom line, how much you are making, right? Bottom line. But because between me and my CTO, we are so adamant open sourcing a lot of things. So this is always a thorn in our conversations with our VC. But I think after a few rounds, especially from the regional VCs, they are saying, okay, Khalil, I know why you open source. You want to bring the community in, you want to bring the local tech scene up to date, the professors, postgrads, undergrads to do LLM research and conference papers and the like. So at some point we have to follow like Linux, right? There's a foundation that get funded for the open source stuff. Then we have the business entity that does all the enterprise support and developments of contribution to the main open source stack. So we are thinking about this, what we call this Yayasan Malam, right? Malam Foundation that corporate agencies can funnel through for the open source because we need to continue to crowdsource our language data set, right? This is not just one company's effort, but we can invite the whole of Malaysia to contribute. For Malang 1.0, we also get volunteers. That means these are Gen Zs, first job data engineers, data scientists. They have the Python foundation. So it was easy for my CTO to upskill them towards LLM, pre-training, fine-tuning, multi-GPU training. So we, through the open source, we quote-unquote expose the young generation to what LLM training means. And not only that, because of NVIDIA, we were asked to do research or technical papers. So while we don't go to conferences, but we publish a few papers on archive, right, to say the technical report. So from investors, they want to see, okay, with your open source model, what are the key use cases that you want to build last year, this year? So Alhamdulillah, this year we already got a few clients in the pipeline to focus on real-time speech-to-speech to tackle the call center use case. So this is like AI voice at the consultants.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, we almost stopped, but I want your opinion about investors, policymakers, just briefly.
Okay, I give very brief. So I just to add, government, I think policymaker, they can add a safe place to share the data. If you have no data, all this application AI doesn't mean anything. So data, we don't have data. Data is like a good ingredient for the food. So we don't have data, best chef also cannot make a good food. So a safe place, like a sandbox, not only for the testing the AI application, that's what policymaker can make, but also providing the data. So a startup company can utilize those data. And for investor, I think investment will be very much wise because a lot of idea with the vibe coding and tools like, for example, Bolt, V0, Firebase. Immediately from idea, you can create the prototype or MVP, and investor can see the value for the market. So investor, instead of investing in individual project, they should invest in the shared infrastructure for the GPU because infrastructure is very, very expensive for a startup. So investment can share and focus on the shared infrastructure for the startup community.
That's a very good advice for the pitching, by the way, for the startups. And
Yeah,
finally,
like keep it brief. Thanks to National AI Office, which is organizing this, as well as what I would like to say is that we should be focusing more on some of the AI safety aspects. So AI Singapore did come up with guidelines for ethics and governance, but what I would look forward to is the government coming up with some toolings that would help the startups to test their software before they go to market. So for example, things like some kind of a verification model that would verify or validate the safety of the solution or the agent that is going out and touching everybody's life. So I would say AI safety is something that the government should invest and basically promote, that anybody can then tap into and create that standard for most of you.
thank you so much. With that, our time is up. Thank you so much. Give a round of applause, please, to our speakers, panelists. And all three of them, we have some other panels during these 2 days, as I've seen. So please visit them and take a look after them. Thank you so much. Thank you for attending.